Live.
Thank you. Well, we can start now. So welcome everyone to this event. We are really happy to have you here. The event is called Women Shaping the Next Generation Mobility, and it is organized by MICTEC, Mujeres en Ingeniería y Ciencias del Tecnológico de Monterrey, Women in Engineering and Science from Tec de Monterrey, together with CF. So we are really happy to present to you today a set of 3 talks with CF to get to know about their company and their strategies and their stories on diversity. So thank you, Cristophe Marnat, Julieta Andrade, and Abril Acosta for being with us today and helping to have this wonderful event. So let me introduce you to our first speaker. Our first speaker is Cristophe Marnat. He is Executive Vice President on Electronics and Advanced Driver Assist Systems Division. Cristophe Marnat serves as Executive Vice President for the CF Electronics and Advanced Driver Assist Systems Division and oversees the operations of CF's most rapidly expanding division, including 7 manufacturing facilities and more than 6,000 employees worldwide. He directs the development and implementation of strategic and operational plans with full profit and loss responsibility. Marnat joined the company from Bear America in 2010 as the Global Finance Director in the Occupant Safety Systems business and assumed increasing responsibilities in finance. In 2015, he was appointed Senior Vice President, Finance and Chief Financial Officer, becoming an integral member of the Active and Passive Safety Division, Executive Leadership. He then led the Global Electronics and Occupant Safety Systems business units as Executive Vice President beginning in 2017. While at Ver, Marnat spent 14 years in various positions of increasing responsibility in France and Germany, until eventually serving as Vice President and Chief Financial Officer at Ver America. Marnat is a graduate of the Institut d'études commerciales supérieures de Strasbourg at the Robert Schuman University in Strasbourg, France. So thank you very much, Cristophe, for being here. It is an honor. And now this audience is all up to you.
Muchas gracias, Lara. Buenos días a todos. Cristophe here. This is unfortunately más o menos where my Spanish stops, so I apologize for that. I'll stick to English if you don't mind, because otherwise it's going to be so painful for you and probably for me as well. So we're going to stay away from that. Like Lara told you, my name is Cristophe Marnat, and I run the Electronics and ADAS division for ZF. I'm talking today from my home here in Detroit, USA. And I'm very excited to interact with all of you today. I apologize in advance if my dog, my cat, or one of my 3 kids decide to make a lot of background noise. I mean, you know, these pandemic times, right? I mean, they are very unique for all of us, so I'm sure you know the drill. So let me tell you a few words about myself before we get to our topics. And first of all, you probably have recognized my French accent by now. Really doesn't matter how hard you try, you never get rid of it. So yes, I'm French. I work in the automotive industry for over 24 years now. I've done a large chunk of my career in finance, like Lara mentioned, and that in multiple entities and multiple countries, before taking over the responsibility for one of the most exciting businesses that ZF has, which is the electronics and ADAS. Lara, if you don't mind moving to the next slide. What do I have for you today? I'm going to tell you a little bit about what ZF is and what we do. But then I'd like to take the time to talk about a topic that is dear to my heart, and that's the topic of diversity and why it's important to build business success. And then, if possible, I'd like to give you also a few hints about the challenges that my business is facing and the kind of characteristics that I'm looking in people that I consider hiring. I know I tend to talk too much, so I try to prevent that. But hopefully we'll have enough time to take your questions and talk about, well, pretty much whatever you want to talk about. So if you agree, let's get to it. Moving on to the next slide. All right, so ZF. If we were in the same room, I would ask you to raise your hand if you have ever heard about ZF before. It doesn't work too well on Zoom. So I'm going to assume that it's not necessarily a brand that many of you have heard before. And that's pretty common in the automotive suppliers, right? But actually, if you look at all the cars in the trucks on the street, I mean, the chances are pretty high that many of them are equipped with some of our products. We are one of the largest automotive suppliers in the world, and we have 160,000 people on board in 41 countries. And the company is over 1 century old. And back in 2019, so last year, sounds like ages ago, but not so far away, we have generated sales of approximately 42 billion euros. So it's a pretty big company. Our strategy, that's to build the next generation mobility. And with that, we understand offering a clean, safe, and affordable transportation for everybody, everywhere. So it has a pretty wide spectrum, talking about multiple technologies, multiple countries, multiple attributes. But we focus on 4 technology areas. What we call the vehicle motion control. And with that, you touch the powertrain, you talk chassis parts, you talk about braking and steering system, for instance. That's the first area. The second area is electrification, very big item, as we all know. Integrated safety, that's basically protecting occupants by combining several elements in the car to make sure that, you know, if an accident becomes unavoidable, we have the right strategy to protect the occupants in the car. And finally, automated driving. And you take these 4 technology areas and you can decline them on 3 market segments: passenger cars, obviously, but also commercial vehicles and industrial technologies. So that's basically what ZF stands for and the kind of markets that we serve. Moving on to the next slide. So the question is ZF in Mexico? Por supuesto, we are. We actually have 26,000 employees in Mexico in 18 different sites. 7 of our 9 divisions are present here. And we have launched some of our new technology here. I mean, some of the electric power steering system that we have launched were born in Mexico. And some of our global processes, like the so-called raise your hand to report quality issues, have been created in one of our plants in Mexico, in Chihuahua, to be precise. So we have a pretty significant presence in Mexico, and that's why it's pretty cool to interact with you guys. Moving on to the next page. If you take a look at our product portfolio, it's pretty large, right? Here you see a few examples, an area in the car where you're very likely to find some of our products. And that's why I'm saying that most of you are probably already ZF customers without necessarily knowing about it. In white, you have those areas where electronics play a key role, and this is where my division is very active. Now, one of the technology areas that I'm particularly focused on is automated driving. And if you move to the next page, that slide gives you a little bit the secret recipe, how to cook an automated driving car. And it's very much about 3 different challenges. The first challenge is what I call C. So basically using all sorts of sensors that can understand the environment around the vehicle. So we're thinking about cameras. We're actually number 1 with automotive cameras today, talking about radars, but also in the future LiDARs. The second part of the recipe is think. And what I mean with that is basically taking all the data from the sensors, fuse this together, and decide what the vehicle needs to do next. So accelerate, slow down, turn right and left. And so the components that come with that are computers, so central computing units, but also software, because all the algorithm that takes the data and transform that into movements for the car. It's all software based, obviously. And then the last element the last ingredient in the recipe, that's what we call ACT. And ACT means executing the trajectory or deploying safety systems. So doing something with the information that has been collected and interpreted by the computer inside of the car. And for that, for the actuation, you need all sorts of actuators, so braking systems, steering systems, many other examples of that nature. So ZF has technologies to handle all three components, and my division provides the electronic and software to make all that happen. So I think that scopes a little bit better what we are, what we do, and where my division plays a role. So moving to the next page, now that we have the elevator pitch about ZF behind us, and I could talk hours about that if you want, but the topic I'd love to develop today is about diversity. And not just diversity in a traditional sense, in a traditional sense of race, color, creed, sexual orientation, religious beliefs, etc., but in the many dimensions that both unite us all as humans, but also make us unique. And if you move to the next page, maybe the right way to talk about this is to talk about a few definitions, and starting with diversity. So diversity is the full spectrum of human demographic differences, and it refers to who's at work. So who is recruited, who is hired, who is promoted by a company. In other words, diversity is the representation of a range of traits and experience in a company's workforce. And these characteristics include gender, race, physical ability, religion, age, and socioeconomic status. Diversity means more than just acknowledging and or tolerating differences. Diversity is a set of conscious practices and means nothing if we did not include the voices of all. Second definition, inclusion. Inclusion, that's a sense of belonging, connection, and community at work. Inclusive organizations help people feel welcomed, known, and valued, and encouraged to bring their whole unique selves to work. Inclusion revolves around the day-to-day interactions between employees, managers, leaders, teams, and peers. Okay, so that's more or less what you will find in Wikipedia, right? Now, my own definition is somewhat simpler. To me, diversity is when you invite it to come to a party. Inclusion is when you invite it to dance. So there is a way more active thing about, inviting somebody to come into a party, but then having the behavior to invite the people to dance with you and share something with. That's the inclusion. That's the deeper part of it. Both diversity and inclusions are super important for every organization. It's a proven fact, by the way. And you know why? Well, if you move to the next slide, this is where we get to the core of it. It's a fact that diverse teams simply have much better performance. Back in 2015, a McKinsey report on 366 public companies found that those in the top quartile for ethnic and racial diversity in management were 35% more likely to have financial returns above the industry mean. And those in the top quartile for gender diversity were 15% more likely to have returns above the industry mean. So I'm not talking about diversity for the sake of it. I'm talking about diversity as a way to be a better business overall. Another proof point, in a global analysis of 2,400 companies conducted by Credit Suisse, organizations with at least one female board member yielded higher return on equity and higher net income growth than those that did not have any women on the board. So it's another proof point, right? I mean, there is something behind diversity that seems to work from a business perspective. And I can tell you from a personal experience in working with colleagues from all walks of life that their unique perspectives absolutely bring so much richness to the table. And in ZF, for instance, we have a board member, Sabine Yaskula, who heads up HR, and she's a diversity champion for the company. She happens to be a good friend of mine as well, and she brings a lot to the table. Different perspective, different ideas, different angle. She is absolutely an asset from that perspective. On my own executive team, I have 3 super strong ladies in charge of legal, purchasing, and HR. All of them bring something that the rest of the team doesn't have. And there are more examples like this. I mean, I'm thinking about John Hart, for instance, who is the global lead for program management across the group, or Elizabeth Anderson, who heads up purchasing for North America. All of them are brilliant and award-winning female leaders. Now, a big part of my role is to build winning teams. And I do my best to get to know talents beyond the usual channels, right? I mean, the performance review, the meetings, the program reviews, all that. I mean, you need to go beyond this if you want to access a potential that, you know, they are deeper in the organization or elsewhere in the organization. And one way I do that, I sponsor since several years the Women Resource Group. That's a group of female colleagues that are eager to grow their career. And for me, it's a great way to offer advice and coach some of them, but it's also listen to their perspective on things and learn from them about how they would do things, how they would approach problems, and what kind of decision they would support based on their own experience. But it's also part of my role to make sure that whoever is looking for talents in my organization doesn't look only at profiles that are similar to themselves. It's a pattern that I observe, you know, over and over again, that, you know, a team of male engineers from certain colleges, etc., are going to try to hire people from the same background. And it sometimes takes some courage to look at diverse profiles, and I'm here to give a push in the right direction anytime it's possible. Actually, I think that the ability to perform in a diverse environment, to network with people that will not naturally think about working together, is a key attribute of successful leadership, and particularly in a business, in the business area that I'm in charge of. Let me illustrate that on the next slide. When it comes to tackling big technology challenges like autonomous driving, it's not true that one company can do it alone. I mean, we need a lot of industry partners working with researchers from higher education and cooperating with governments to work together to bring safety and efficiency benefits around the globe. So there's a lot of different profiles in many countries with completely different expectations. And yet the key is to make all of them work together. It's a pretty exciting challenge, but that's why diversity in inclusion are so important. You don't make such complex business network without people able to deal with multiple cultures, backgrounds, or personal affinities. So, you know, step back a little bit and think about yourself. How do you become part of it? Well, you have a pretty strong starting point already. I mean, there's a lot I like about MIC, the academic, the internationality, what you do in your day-to-day cursus, that's pretty amazing. But beyond that, I encourage you to join professional organizations, take advantage of opportunities for work experience through internship, co-op programs, solicit the help of your professors and counselors to introduce you to networking opportunities, travel or study overseas. It's all part of broadening your worldview and horizons and become a more well-rounded worker, but more importantly as well as a human being. And if you're moving to the next page, when I look at people that would love to join my division, it's not only the technical skills that I'm after. If you were to ask me if I would rather have a technological genius with brilliant ideas that only wants to work on those ideas themselves, or a very technologically competent person who is a team player and collaborator, I would take the team player. As we just discussed with diverse working teams and building your network, it is virtually always true that people working together are more effective than someone working in a vacuum. So strive for the best of both worlds. Develop your technological skills, super important. If you don't have that, you don't even come into questions, right? But cultivate a passion for innovation and build your skills in working with others. Listen to them, encourage others to do their best, and don't be afraid to fail and always be willing to try. Now, the education is a process that never ends. I still consider myself a student to a certain extent. And it comes from real life experiences that can enrich you well beyond your expectations. Now, succeeding as a team, to me, leads to a greater satisfaction than any individual accomplishment can. It's why we enjoy sports or hiking together, for instance, right? A shared experience is somehow more profound than an individual one. Now, if you're moving to the next page, as EF, we use the ideas of excel and explore to describe the balance of satisfying the business needs of today with the aspiration to develop the new technologies of the future. One doesn't go without the other. If you can't excel at what you do today, make money, that's part of it, then you never get the money that it takes to invest into new research, new development, and develop the products that you need for your future for the long term. So again, it's all about the balance of achievements for today with the promise of investing in your future. Now, continued growth and development in business and in life is a never-ending journey that can be incredibly fulfilling and rewarding. So I encourage you to keep excelling now in your studies, in your personal life with friends and families, and in exploring the possibilities of what comes next for the following chapters ahead. And finally, in the next page, I know we're all going through rough times right now, right, with the pandemic that's going on. But if COVID has taught us anything, it's A, to stay patient, but also to be flexible and creative and stay focused on the future as we will make it through the crisis together. Now, the future awaits, and while there are always challenges, there are exciting and better times ahead. And I hope that you see that as much as I do. With that, thank you for your attention. And now I'm ready to take your questions. All right, so now I'm facing a crowd of people that are all muted, and I feel alone, guys. Please, please.
Thank you very much, Cristophe. Guys, you can write down your questions on the chat, and then here Rebecca will help us to read them aloud and guide this Q&A session. So please don't be shy. This is your opportunity.
I see Rebecca's lip moving, but I can't hear anything. You might be on mute, Rebecca, actually.
Areas of improvement here. So if you wish, I'm going to say it in Spanish. Chicos, si la quieren poner en español, no se preocupen, la podemos traducir. No pasa nada. So we have the very first question from Mariel Alquicira Morales. She's asking, what advice would you give to undergrad students interested in going into this field?
Well, again, it's a fascinating thing, right? If you think about what's happening in the automotive industry right now, there are a few mega trends that are happening that are going to transform this industry altogether in the next few years. If you think about electrification, this is going to, this is going to be a big change, right? The internal combustion engine is going to eventually disappear. Can't tell you exactly when, nobody really knows, but this is approaching. It's like ketchup, right? And when you push on the bottle of ketchup, you know it's coming, you never know how much and when. That's the same thing with electrification. And driving automation, well, I'm not sure we're going to see fully automated car before 2030, 35, maybe later. But ADAS systems are something that are coming more and more, and that's equipment that people want to see in their car. I mean, there are exciting things going on at Tesla, yeah, it's true, but there are exciting things going on also with other OEMs, Nissan being one of them, and GM, and all of them, to be quite frank. So I understand why you would say, hey, I want to work in that field, because as an engineer or as a professional, I mean, it's exciting, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. I think that what you would love to have there is you need to bring your technical background, right? Is what you're learning at school right now, what you're learning in college, super important, because you are going to be hired for what you can do, right? And you're going to be hired to play a certain role in the organization. But then this is where the softer skill play a role, right? You are going to be evaluated in your ability to integrate into a team and to develop a social network far beyond the location where you're in. I mean, nowadays we are all working, well, not all, I'm sorry. A lot of us are working from home, right? Like I am in my basement right now, beautiful logo, but still my basement. And you need to be able to have this human relationship to bring people to come to work with you, generate some new ideas together, and drive the results. And so it's the people skill that are going to be very important. The ability to communicate, the ability to interact with your colleagues and all that, this is going to be super important. How do you develop that? It's a bit what I was saying before. Obviously, don't skip your academics, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. You really need to get the good grades that you're here to get. But beyond that, you need to develop also the social aspect of your personality, demonstrate that you have been able to do great things within a team, that you have been able to develop some kind of internationality, potentially that you have the foreign language skill that enables you to find your spot into a global team. That kind of stuff I will certainly look for looking at candidates, and I'm sure it's beyond that, right? It's certainly going to bring a lot of success in your life, I think, if you do something like this.
Perfect. We have a few questions. So the next one is a very interesting one. Are you ready?
First one was very interesting too.
Very interesting. So this is very interesting. What is your outlook of the status of the trans and non-binary people, talking about gender, inclusion and awareness in the industry?
I'm going to be very honest to you. We all have a lot of progress to be done. It's, we talk a lot about diversity. I think it's a proven fact that diverse teams are better, but are we there yet? No, we're not. And there are still a lot of gap between the intent and where we want to go. And the reason for that, I don't think it's because we are trying to advertise something we don't really believe in. It's more, we need to find the right levers and the right hurdles to make diversity and inclusion happen, right? So I'll give you an example. I don't believe that we should give some quotas, right, of certain group of person to, I want my team to be 50% female or to have that kind of diversity characteristic, etc. But what you want to do is to build a process whereby you give a chance to everybody, right? And have the possibility to create a pipeline of talents that is as representative of diversity as possible. And then once you have created this pipeline, the rest is going to happen automatically. And it takes some discipline. This is where you will want to have a volunteer and structured approach in making sure that these talents get recognized and get their chance at showing what they can. And this is where the leadership has a role to play, right? This is where the leaders need to play an active role there and make sure that, we really cover everybody in this talent pipeline.
Perfect.
And once the pipeline is there, the rest is up to the competence of everybody, right? You really don't want to get a job as a female professional because you're female. You want to get that job because you're the best candidate for the job. So it's a matter of identifying the talent, give everybody the same chance. The rest is a matter of automatism. And we have a lot to do to make that happen. Perfect.
So now I have another question, but I'm just gonna join now that we're talking in this topic. What do you think is the unique perspective women can give to enable mobility?
It's a trap question because my wife would tell you that after 20 years, I still don't understand her. So how would I claim that I understand the woman in general, right? I can tell you that in some instances, I've been in meetings where only male, all the same profile, and we tend to play a little bit mean with each other, and be very conflictual and very frictional. And I've learned that with more diverse teams, we have a different nature of debate because we are more respectful of the opinion of everybody, and we make sure we listen to different perspectives, and people look at the problems from a different angle, and it brings a much wider realm of possibility to solve a given problem by having this diversity in the team than if everybody's coming from the same school, has the same kind of degrees, and look at the same things the same way. That's the reduction of the narrowing of the problem, or the narrowing of the solutions possible that you don't want to have. So I'm going to be very diplomatic. I'm not going to pretend that I know what women in general bring in addition to what I have experienced with male colleagues. I'm just going to say that my experience was that we were able to bring much better solutions if we had a wider team, a more diverse team than we would have been otherwise.
Perfect, thank you. Now, what is the type of technical fields where ZF are seeing employment for engineering and management?
So I'm going to tell you a secret, but since we are among us, it's not a problem, right?
No.
So my division is going to invest in Mexico in the next few years. And there are two fields where we're going to invest. We are going to invest into manufacturing, and we are going to invest into engineering. On the engineering front, the electronics engineering area you have, let's say, one area into the mechanical design of the electronic components themselves. That's one field that is very attractive to my business in general. The software side of things is also super important, right? And software, it's base software, middleware, functional software. There is a lot of technique behind this. I'm sure that whoever is into software engineering right now is hearing a lot about CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous development, that kinds of techniques. Very sought after, really something that you might want to look into very, very precisely. On the manufacturing front, there are still some very exciting stuff happening in manufacturing. If you look at Industry 4.0, we happen to have a very, very large Japanese customer base as well, in which lean, the Toyota way and all that still remains very, very, well, on top of the radar screen, to be honest, because the fundamental of lean is still very valid today. So if you're looking at a career into manufacturing area, investing in the area of lean and digitalization, I'm going back to digitalization there. Industry 4.0, it's very important. Digitalization is super important across the board. So for everybody around the business, what I mean to say with that is that it is the possibilities with digitalization are endless. It can be a tool to improve your internal processes, right? You can think in administration, you do a ton of stuff with big data and analytics that we had no idea about 10 years ago. But beyond that, it's also the possibility to develop some new products that could generate revenues that were not accessible in the past. So when you think about the products I sell, I told you earlier, a camera with an embedded software on it, for instance. The camera has a ton of functions today. I'm not completely sure that everybody wants to buy all these functions that are on this camera. Maybe they're only interested in one function, two functions, three functions out of the 15. And maybe they are willing to pay as a subscription for this function, as opposed to buy everything when they buy the car. That opens the door to sell some software in addition to the product that we sell today, and digitalization makes all that possible and so much more. So that is an area, if you want to look into it and see what kind of contribution you can pay there, not a bad idea, not a bad investment.
So the students at Monterrey School in general have this idea of starting a new business. They are this kind of go-getter. They like to start things and change the way things are happening around. Problem solvers, critical thinking. Are those kind of skills that are you looking in your team?
Yeah, on several fronts, I would say. So first of all, I showed you a slide earlier with a network of companies we work with, right? Some of them are actually big players, yeah. Some of them are much, much smaller companies, startups. We, for instance, cooperate with a company called IBO. It's a 400 people company that is focused on LiDAR. Their way of operating, very, very different from ours. As you can imagine, ZF is a larger company where processes are well defined and there are rules that you want to respect, not because we want to make everybody's life complicated, but because we have a proven track record that these rules are here to protect the company and to ensure a certain output, high quality output, very safe output. Remember that a lot of my products are safety related, right? So you really want to make sure that they work, right? You really don't want this product to say, well, are you really sure you want that to happen, or you have a bug and it doesn't work? Nah, that's not for us. Yeah. So coming back to the topic of the entrepreneurship, the ability to cooperate with these different kind of businesses, smaller kind of businesses, innovative businesses, super important. I need the people that are able to work with them for they are part of the larger group, the larger ZF. So that's one aspect. The second aspect, we have an innovation process whereby in my division, if you have a good idea, just take a piece of paper, write what is your great idea, and send it to a group that we call the innovation board. I know it sounds good. And the innovation board is going to look at the idea, and if they feel, wow, the idea is cool, then we're going to give you some money, we're going to give you some time, you're going to be able to work on your idea for a couple of weeks. And then after a couple of weeks, you come back and you tell me if it's really as cool as you thought it was. And then if it really is, and you convince the board, then you're going to get a little bit more money, a little bit more time, and you can try this as well. We have a very agile way of looking at that. and try to use the entrepreneurship that you have in yourself if this is what you strive for, right? So it's not because we are a big company, it's not because we have so many people on board that you're going to be, you know, or should I say, limited by the rules and the process. We have these areas for you to, you know, create, innovate, and that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, we will want to be successful with that and be able to develop a business. Yeah, I mean, that's what we are here for, after all, right? But if you have the entrepreneurship and you want to do it, yeah, absolutely, we'll find a spot for you.
Perfect. So Dr. Giga is asking, will your industry deploy Industry 4.0 technologies in your Mexican sites, like digital twins or cyber physical production systems?
That's very easy. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. I can't say anything else. Yes. It's part of it.
I'm moving forward. Are you hiring for that?
I'm at the very early stage of that, right? So we're looking for sites, and Monterrey might be actually pretty close to the sites we're looking for right now. Just a spoiler alert. It's something we want to do. I mean, we are growing very, very fast. ADAS is, as I said before, it's something that everybody wants on their car, and with that comes a lot of growth. And being in Mexico would be a fantastic benefit for us. So we are looking at that very closely.
Oh, this is a good one. Okay, are you ready?
Go ahead.
So this has been like amazing. So, but you're gonna love this one. There is this preconception that automotive engineering is not for women, and also this new tendency of new young people to be famous in social media as plan A for their life. What we can do to motivate people in general to study engineering, and particularly women?
Wow. Yeah, it's a big question, right? I don't know. I mean, I can tell you that I got 3 children, as I told you before. The 2 boys are 16 and 18. And for a very, very long time, they said they don't want a driver's license and they don't need a car, they hate cars, etc., etc. Well, guess what? Both of them have their driver's license now. And both of them drive, and they realize that they have developed this love for the cars, the brands, and all that kind of good stuff. There's still an emotional dimension in the car, right? And beyond the emotional dimension, it's also the freedom that comes with traveling, the freedom that comes with the ability to go places, see people, see new things, etc., etc. The individual mobility is what makes all that happen. And all that is changing, right? If you think about the climate protection, everything that enabled the individual mobility in the past is going to be different tomorrow. And if you want to defend that, if you want to take a stand and make sure that we still have this freedom that our parents and our grandparents have enjoyed, this is your chance. This is your chance to join as an engineer the automotive industry and make a contribution to climate neutral manufacturing processes or environment respectful product that enables people to move places and create this connection that I've talked about. So that's a general thing. In terms of how could I motivate a lady to join the industry, I would tell you there are fantastic careers to be made as a female in groups like ZEF. I mean, as I told you before, I mean, one female is on the board of management, so at the very top of the organization. It is possible. You really can make it to the top. So be part of the overall societal side challenge in general. And if you want to find an organization that makes your career plan possible, well, that's one of them.
Perfect. Now, Alejandro Gonzalez Garcia is asking, what kind of ADAS-related challenges will be tackled in Mexico?
Not sure I understand the beginning of the question, Alejandro. Can you repeat that, Becca?
What kind of ADAS-related challenges? So, for example, let me tell you a little bit more about Mexico. So, have you ever driven at Mexico?
I never drove in Mexico. I was in Mexico very often, but never drove.
So, this is our culture. We don't use turn signals. We do not follow stop signals.
Okay.
We don't give the right to the pedestrian, but we will always stop for a dog.
Yeah.
Not for a person, but for a dog.
Okay.
So,
a dog-loving country, I see.
Yeah, animal-loving country in general. So, knowing all this as a background, Christophe, what kind of ADAS challenges do you think that will be like tackled in Mexico? Like having all these ZF autonomy and product line will be the ones that will be effectively.
Yeah. I guess let me expand a little bit your question, Alejandro, if you don't mind. I used to be in charge of our business in India in my previous job, and at the time I was working for the division that used to make airbags and seatbelts, and I always remember reflecting on the airbag business in India, while on my trip from the airport to the hotel, I was crossing some motorbikes or mopeds where you had the dad, the mom, 2 children in the back, and a baby in a bucket. And I thought, I'm not sure about that. So let's respect the fact that, you know, every country comes with its set of constraints, and Mexico is one of them. You're perfectly right. Now, when you talk about ADAS, you're not talking about autonomous driving, right? You're probably aware of this classification based on the SAE definition of the level of assistance, right?
Right.
Level 2, some talk even about level 2 plus, is the last level in this classification where the driver remains in control all the time, right? When you switch to level 3, this is where the car needs to perform autonomously in certain conditions, in certain areas, for a certain period of time. Level 4 is a vehicle that still need to have steering wheels and pedals, etc., but is able to perform autonomously in many more situations. Level 5 is this kind of robo taxi or shuttles that you see that don't even have a steering wheel. So basically it's fully autonomous. So level 2, ADAS, that's the core of the ADAS market today, and this is going to remain like this for a long time, is very much bringing you some additional safety, meaning that it might see some obstacles on the road before you even going to see it, right? Because you got radars, you got cameras, and maybe it's going to be able to start to slow down the car before you decide, oh, now I need to pull the brake. It also is a comfort function, or brings some comfort function. When you drive on highway, then basically, of course, you need to continue to pay attention because ultimately you are in charge, right? But you still have the possibility to, you know, I wouldn't say relax, but basically enjoy more comfort by driving than you would have otherwise. So in an environment like Mexico, for instance, again, since you're still responsible for the car anyway, then you might have some added control. You might have some earlier reaction, but you're in charge. So it's I hope it addressed your question, by the way.
They are also mentioning that we don't have lines for like we don't have lines on the road, so it's going to be like kind of hard, and of course that's important for cameras and so on.
True,
so,
but if you have an animal crossing just in front of the car, again, the sensors the sensors might catch that before you do, and you know, sometimes a little bit of, you know, milliseconds or before your reaction might actually save your life, so might still be worth it.
Perfect. Now here is an opinion, not a question, that they want to share with you. Okay, the exposure of women in STEM can inspire other women to follow these careers. So using social media to show role models that people can connect with is what can change these trends. Men have had more exposure to male role models in this industry. In example, engineering got an influx of students after the launch of the Iron Man movie, which is why the exposure and representation in media, specifically in entertainment, can make a really big change.
I agree. It's a very good point. I don't know who brought this remark, but that's very true. That's, by the way, one of the foundation for the women resource group that I was talking about. Is we have put some, women leaders in that group that can also coach new hires and show them the way, quite honestly. And it's way more powerful if these women leaders give a message and if I give a message to that group, because it's something they have experienced themselves, right? And they have a track record, that they know the way to get there. And I fully agree with you. That's very good point.
And a follow-up comment says, precisely like this talk helps a lot inspiring future women to follow these career paths.
So you don't want to talk to me anymore, right?
No, oh my God. We're getting close engineering, because let me tell you something. ADAS is nothing that we hear a lot at Mexico, because cars that has these technologies are pretty expensive. So what we are doing here and what you're doing, Cristophe, is helping to make our technologies being accessible to everybody. So thank you so much for that. But we are not closing, so we are not dead yet. So hold on. So now next question. Now that you mentioned climate change, is ZF developing and researching new technologies to help the environment? Could you give us an example? I always consider the green policy of a company before joining.
Yeah, it's a good point. So one announcement we have done, let me pedal back a little bit. One of the historical products of the company is transmission for cars for internal combustion engines, right? So automatic transmissions. You have to know that ZF was created again 100 years ago when, I don't know if you know what a Zeppelin is. It's like a blimp, right? And at the time, the inventor of the blimp needed a transmission system with very little vibration to be able to move the balloon through the air, right? So that's how the company was created. And so that's our tradition. This is our roots. This is where we're coming from. Well, guess what? A few weeks ago, we have announced we're stopping any development of internal combustion engine related technology. That's one of the commitments we are making, because we say there's no point, right? We don't want to do that anymore. It's not giving the right signal, and it's a big change for the company, right? I mean, we still have a large number of people working in this area, and now we are committing to tell our people, well, you're going to work into other areas. You're going to work into electrification, electric motors, for instance, or that kind of things. So that's one of the commitments we have made. We have also made the commitment to become climate neutral or CO2 neutral. Now I hate myself because I can't remember what year we have defined. I think it's 2040, if I'm not mistaken, and that's going to touch everything. The supply chain. So we're going to look at what our suppliers do, and maybe we're going to have to make some decisions to go to more expensive supplier, but supplier that have processes that are more respectful of the environment. We're going to look at the length of the logistic chains, right? Does it really make sense to import everything from, I don't know, Asia or wherever, and to produce in the US or in Germany? Maybe not, right? We're going to look at that as well. We're going to look at recycling. We're going to look at energy consumption. We're going to look at the way we manufacture. So all that is part of a large package of measures that's going to, help us to achieve this goal of climate neutrality at a certain point. It's like when something like this happens, I think that the social value of that goal is pretty straightforward, right? Nobody's going to debate that. But making it happen, it's a big thing, right? And it takes big energy to pull the 160,000 people that work for ZF into that direction. That's something we are committed to do, and hopefully, if you join us, then you'll be able to be part of it.
Perfect, guys. We are 10 minutes before we go to the next participant. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. It's not remember, we don't have an EVP every day here. So let's give us the opportunity. Let's give it 5. You know what? It's because it's also that we're used. So in this school at Monterrey, everything starts on time and classes ends like 5 minutes before the hour. So they give you time to walk, change buildings, like get coffee, water.
That's okay. Don't worry.
And sharp, like, you know, it's like sharp, like you can be done for your class if you're late.
You were about to say you have been so clear that nobody has any question. I mean, I felt pretty good about that. But
oh,
no.
now they are asking me. So this is a question. Okay, now this is advertising moment. Where do you send your CV? So my name is Rebecca. I'm the lead of the talent acquisition for ZF, Mexico, Argentina, and Colombia. So I'm very happy to have you all you guys. Where you want to send your CV? We have a website dedicated for you. Why not to my email? ZF is very policy driven. So we comply all the laws in every country. So we respect the privacy laws at Mexico, Germany, everywhere. If you send me your email, like literally we're breaking the law, so we don't want to do that, right? And also, if you send it to the database that I'm going to tell you the website right now, you can go and upload your resume and you can choose who wants to see your resume. We have two options. Option number one, if you click everyone, it means all the people, all the recruiters within the organization. If you mean only the recruiters for the position that I apply, it can be only me or the person at Germany. We are very diversity driven, so there is nothing that prevents you to applying. We don't see gender, race, whatever, religion, age, so don't care about it. The website is zf.com/careers. And now we have another question. See, you put them a deadline and they are asking questions. Our students speak Spanish and English. What will be your recommendation for a third and even fourth language to learn?
Oh, you need to learn French. Not just kidding.
For ADAS is French, guys.
Well, that would
take
make
notes.
my day-to-day more pleasant, right? I can talk French to somebody. That would be nice. Now, let's be realistic. I mean, there is a pretty large chunk of the workforce in Germany. If you talk German on top of English and Spanish, that's nice. That's not a must, but that's nice, right? Yeah, and then fourth language, if you really want to shoot at that, I mean, we really work around the world, right? I mean, we have a big business in China, we have a big business in Japan. I mean, if you have additional foreign language skills, I'm sure we'll find a spot to use that. But again, English and Spanish, I mean, you start with a very strong basis.
Perfect. And then I have another question. Did you see advanced technologies coming to Mexico, particularly big urban centers like Mexico City or Monterrey?
Yeah, no, I do. And it depends what you call advanced technology, obviously, right? But for me, everything around safety, I mean, there is a lot of that. And if you think about airbags, seatbelts, and all that, it doesn't sound like super sexy as a technology. It really is. It really makes a big difference in terms of saving lives on the road. So yes, it's coming. It really is coming. And again, coming back to my experience in India, even in India, you see frontal airbags particularly. I mean, it's developing very, very strongly as well. And there is a lot of value in that. And I think people recognize this. And to be honest, I think we have done a pretty good job at producing these technologies at costs that people can afford.
Perfect. And I have another question. That's a very interesting too. Are you interested in specialized people with masters or PhDs?
Yes, we are. We have some areas in the company that work on things which are very, very precise, very, very sharp, right? So if you think about artificial intelligence, for instance, we have a center of research for AI, and here these kind of profiles are very much in research. Yeah.
Okay. Now, maybe this is a question for both of us. How ZF deal with the requirement to hire new engineers with ADAS experience if it's a relative new technology?
Because some of the ingredients you need are going to be also things that you have developed in other technologies as well. So in my division, for instance, we have a safety electronics area that is, has been established for a while already. It's a pretty mature technology. And the skills that the software engineers has in that part of the business is absolutely reusable without any problem in the ADAS field. So it's not that once you have learned something else than ADAS, you're stuck in there forever. No, you can really, there are a lot of bridges.
Perfect. Okay, they are see sharp, and they all have questions now.
There you go.
It's okay. It's okay. I know we can have you here all night long. So how ZF deal? No, we already asked you that. Interested. Okay. What is your perception of Mexican/Latin American talent?
We have, again, a big presence in Mexico, big presence in Brazil, big presence in Argentina as well. So the company has recognized not only that there are talents locally, but also that those markets are very, very attractive as well, right? So there is a strong interest from the company, but not only to sell stuff. We really also want to establish a presence that enables us to build stuff in those countries. So we have a tech center presence in Brazil. We have a tech center presence in Mexico, and this is going to continue to grow.
So what is the key component of this culture that make them different to the rest?
Well, I mean, I'm talking to future graduates, right? I mean, the quality of the education system is very good, right? I mean, if I look at an institution like yours, it's pretty widely acknowledged that you guys are in the right place, right? It's a very good house. That's the point one. The point two, and I'm back to the social skills. There is a lot of people that speak languages that are widespread in the world, and the ability to make bridges with other people, right? Create connections, collaborate, etc., etc. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Brazil as well. For instance, I can tell you that the links I've created there with colleagues have become friendship links very easily as well. I'm Latin too, right? The French are Latin culture as well. So that
yes. Yes, you can consider us Latin because it's from the same family language. So you're Latino as well, from the heart. So guys, do you have any other question? Questions on one? Oh, there's another question. What are the skills, not technical, that we should develop to be successful on ZF?
I'm back to the soft skills. It's the ability to interact in a matrix. I mean, I'm sure you have done a little bit of theory of organizations, right? I mean, the flat pyramidal kind of organization that's gone for a long time. So very often you have a functional dimension, you have a business unit or product line dimension, you even have a regional dimension that come on top of that. If you have the people skill to interact in these matrix environments, regardless of what your job description say or who is your boss, that's a fantastic opportunity, that you have a fantastic asset, right? And I can see that some struggle with that. And back to the topic of culture, some cultures struggle more with that model than others. I think the Latin culture are more prone to this interconnection of this network than others are.
Perfect. Okay, guys, another round of questions on one, on two, on three. Well, no more questions so far.
All right.
Just thank you, Cristophe. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, kids, for being here today. Kids, because you know I'm a granny. I want to say that I'm a granny, but no, I'm LPO, organizational psychologist 2010, graduate from Monterrey School as well. So Cristophe, again, thank you so very much for being here. I appreciate that you are giving us the opportunity to learn more from you, empowering this group of students, and also for sharing what are you doing in order to impulse the next generation of mobility in terms of diversity. I appreciate your time today. I also want to say thank you and a shout out to my communications team led by Tony Sapienza. Thank you so much for jumping into this big dream. Again, the power of dreams being done today. And thank you so much for being here.
It was my pleasure to spend some time with you guys. Keep focusing on the academics, but get outside as well and develop your personality and human skills. I'm sure it's going to be helpful in your life and in your career. Thank you all. Hope to see you all very soon.
Awesome. Auf Wiedersehen. So if you remember what's next, join CF. Well, we're going